The sanctity of law can be maintained only so long as it is the expression of the will of the people. After the comments that were made yesterday by the President of the United States, Joe Biden, there's been a lot of consternation and hand-wringing about what that might mean for the future. Let me put all of your minds at ease. There's nothing he is going to do without the cooperation of all of the people. And that's just how it always works. Just like in the previous 4 years, when there was half the country that was being obstructionist, for the next 4 years, there's going to be another half that is obstructionist. When we talk about the expression of the will of the people, we are clearly not one people. We are divided, and it's not along any line other than one that is established by thought and feeling. You have absolute control over just one thing, your thoughts. This divine gift is the sole means by which you may control your destiny. If you fail to control your mind, you will control nothing else. We suffer more often in imagination than we do in reality. This is the case with those who are continually moving from one emotion to another, being upset about this or angry about that or offended at this thing or that other notion. There is no way to really get beyond that. You will always be caught up in an emotional vice grip. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are looking at this picture and going, wait a minute, hold on, back up. We were just talking about thought and emotion and what Joe Biden said. What does that have to do with the joystick? This is an old Atari 2600 joystick. But what it really was is the initial way that in the computer age, people expressed will. You moved the joystick in one direction or another, pressed the button, and different things happened. Now, it was very simplistic, very kind of clunky, but it was the first stage of a technology. It was the expression of a will that you change something going on in the game or what's on the screen. Things got a little bit more complicated with this. And then, of course, we saw the games become far more complex, where you needed numbers and multiple keys, multiple triggers. But then someone had an idea. Instead of just creating something where people can express will in a game, maybe they can express will socially without even leaving their homes. And virtually everyone on the planet knows how to use a mouse. This is another tool to express will. What you choose to look at, what you don't choose to look at. This is how it's done. Now, something very, very disturbing has been occurring lately, and I'd like to share it with you. It has to do with an expression of will that doesn't require any physical inputs. Just thought. I'm going to play this video for you, and it's about a monkey that they have implanted chips in, and it can express its will just by thinking. The implications of this are far more disturbing than what they want to tell you. They want to make this be something where it's a medical advance, where it's going to help people who can't move participate in society. But what it really is a way to be able to predict what people can and may do based simply on tracking their thoughts. So when I say control your thoughts, control your minds, it may have a much more important purpose in the future, but let me play this video for you so you can hear what they're doing.
This is Pager. He's a 9-year-old macaque who had a Neuralink placed in each side of his brain about 6 weeks ago. If you look carefully, you can see that the fur on his head hasn't quite fully grown back yet. He's learned to interact with a computer for a tasty banana smoothie delivered through a straw. We can interact with the Neuralinks simply by pairing them to an iPhone, just as you might pair your phone to a Bluetooth speaker. The links record from more than 2,000 electrodes implanted in the regions of Paige's motor cortex that coordinate hand and arm movements. Neurons in this region modulate their activity with intended hand movement. For example, some might become more active when he moves his hand up, and others when he moves it to the right. By recording from many neurons and feeding their activity into a decoder algorithm, we are able to predict Paige's intended hand movements in real time. First, we calibrate the decoder by recording neural activity as Pager uses the joystick to move a cursor to targets presented on the screen. As he's playing this game, we are wirelessly streaming, in real time, the firing rates from thousands of neurons to a computer. Using these data, we calibrate the decoder by mathematically modeling the relationship between patterns of neural activity and the different joystick movements they produce. After only a few minutes of calibration, we can use the output from the decoder to move the cursor instead of the joystick. Pager still moves the joystick out of habit, but as you can see, it's unplugged. He's controlling the cursor entirely with decoded neural activity. Our goal is to enable a person with paralysis to use a computer or phone with their brain activity alone. Because they wouldn't be able to move a joystick, they would calibrate the decoder by imagining hand movements to targets. One of the things the Neuralinks allow Pager to do is to play his favorite video game, Pong. To control his paddle on the right side of the screen, Pager simply thinks about moving his hand up or down. We've removed the joystick altogether. Now that he's up to speed, let's increase the difficulty and see how well Pager can play with the Neuralink. As you can see, Pager is amazingly good at Mind Pong. He's focused, and he's playing entirely of his own volition. It's not magic. The reason Neuralink works is because it's recording and decoding electrical signals from the brain. Great game, Pager.
Now, I'm sure a lot of you can take away from this how they really have a different intent. Different intent. The ability to predict is the key there. They are attempting to predict the will of the people through decoded brain signals. This will have an effect that they will be able to apply in law enforcement. They will be able to do new actuarial tables for insurance based on this. And if you don't have control of your mind, control of your thoughts, they will be able to see so much you don't want them to see. There have been a lot of videos put out where different agents from Alphabet, CIA, FBI, all this, can say, well, we spotted this tick or this mannerism, and based on that, we believe someone is lying. Well, that's all really kind of subjective. But this won't be. This will be codified into law. And when this happens, those without control of their mind will be in deep you-know-what. Because they're already doing it through your phone, watching eye movements. But, once again, somewhat subjective. And that's what this really all boils down to, emotion versus thought. There's very little in our lives anymore that we can control. But we can control our thoughts. And there's a scripture in the Bible, and I should have looked it up before I did the video, about vain imaginations being something that was counseled against. Not daydreaming, not imagining things as if they were real. You have absolute control over just one thing, your thoughts. This divine gift is the sole means by which you may control your destiny. If you fail to control your mind, you will control nothing else. And the question we need to ask ourselves is, what happens when they are able to determine the will of animals? I think that'll be the end of the meat industry. Will it not? Like, share, subscribe.